Hey everybody! As you know, may or may not know, I just returned not too long ago from a trip to Benin. And one of the questions that Bishop LaDonna asked me while I was there was how I would share with the people back home my experience there. And initially I thought, well, I'll have time to talk with people, I'll, share my pictures and I'll be able to. But really, I've had a lot of people ask me what happened, what took place on this trip, and it's kind of hard to sum it up in 2 minutes, which is usually what I have to discuss with a lot of people. With some people I've had more time to sit down and talk it over, but there was so much that did take place that I feel like I have done an injustice to saying what went on that trip. So I'm going to do a couple of different videos. I did some videos or recorded some things while I was there, and I will integrate those into these mini discussions. So if you're interested, hey, watch, go through, comment, let's dialogue. But if not, that's fine too. For those of you who do not know, in February I spent 2.5 weeks in Benin, which is in Africa, for those of you who don't know that as well. And that's okay, Side note, I can't start this off without getting on the soapbox. Side note, sometimes those of us who may have a heart, may have a passion, may have an interest in the world, become quite critical of other people's lack of knowledge of these things. And I'm not going to do that. I don't have knowledge of everything that I'm not necessarily interested in, and so I'm not going to judge you on that. But I will say that I think that it is important to take an interest in what's going on around the world, especially as believers. It is very important for you to have some type of knowledge, not necessarily of geography and all of those type of things, but more so that there is a world beyond the society of which you live, and there's a lot more going on in the earth than what takes place here in America. So with that said, I was back to what I was saying, off of my soapbox now. I took 2.5 weeks, and I was able to travel with my hero, my shero, Bishop LaDonna Osborne, which if you know me, you would know that's a really big deal. Like that's my Whitney Houston, that's my Michael Jackson. Okay, so for those of you who are like big fan Drake, Justin Bieber fans, this is my Justin Bieber. So I got to spend 2.5 weeks out of the country doing something that I've always dreamed of doing, which is in and of itself a miracle. When I say it is a miracle, let me explain to you the dynamics of this, because I'm going to tell you of all the other miracles that took place, but let me give you the dynamics of this. One, I can't even, some people ask, what did you do? How'd you get on this trip? I can't even tell you that. It just kind of came up in conversation. Bishop LaDonna is an amazing woman of God whom I have the honor of meeting when I was 12 years old. And I will say, I'll have to say, and I've reflected on this a lot, that I have been amazingly blessed to have had the connections and the contacts that I have had at such an early age. I've been brought up, and if you are familiar with Cedar Lake Christian Center, or the Covenant Cathedral at Cedar Lake Christian Center, in which most of you will understand this, I grew up understanding the power of covenant. There really is more to relationship than, oh, this is my friend. But I'm not going to get on that. Go to clccnet.org and get the books. I grew up on those books, so I'm not going to preach the sermon. Bishop's already preached the sermon for you. Nevertheless, I was able to come into contact with her at a very early age, and she was humble enough, gracious enough to maintain contact with a 12-year-old girl all the way up to now. I'm 25. And so through the years we have discussed potentially traveling. We have, and it was, let me also explain this. I will get into the trip, but I think these are important things to know. Like I said, I'm not going to preach the covenant series, but covenant is not, hear me church people and non-church people, but specifically church people. Covenant is not, I see something in you I want, so I'm going to befriend you so I can get what I want. I promise you that was not what I was doing. One, because even though some of you are aware of the prestige that comes with the Osborne name. At 12 years old, I didn't have a clue. Back then, all I knew was Carmen and Firebrand. Shouts out to Firebrand. That's all I was really interested in. In fact, the weekend that I met her, Firebrand was in town, and that's all I remember is that Firebrand was in town. If you don't know who Firebrand is, don't worry about it, but for those of you who do, you understand what I'm talking about. So in coming into contact with her, it was never I know the prestige of the Osborne name and I want to. That's not covenant. I don't know what that is, but that's not covenant. So don't, if that's your heart, if that's your reason for getting into contact. Now I understand there are sometimes that you will get into contact with people because they have something that you need, but don't call that covenant, okay? Anyways, another soapbox I just happened to get on. Anyways. That was not the case with her. I was not trying to do anything, but it is something that had come up, that we had discussed, and that really, because it had been so long and not of any fault of either hers or mine, I just really didn't feel like was going to happen. I felt like that because of where our paths had gone, I've grown up now at 12. It's easy to say that, but you grow up, and it's not that you stop dreaming, but it's like to accomplish dreams is not as easy as when you're 12 and you just see it and you go after it. There's a job that takes place. Got a job. And that's where the miracle for me starts. Of course, 2.5 weeks I have to be off of work. 2.5 weeks. Do you know what it's like to get off of work at a law firm? The week in foreclosure, the week of deadlines. Now, deadlines and sales, you don't get off for that. Nobody's attorneys, partners, nobody gets off for that. And so when, it was brought to me, the opportunity was brought to me, that was simply my prayer. And I have always, well, not always, I have come to be a person that allows God to be God. And God is just amazing at being God. He is absolutely amazing at being God. And so because I've come to know this, I have no problem with saying, okay, God, I need you to be God in this situation. And that's pretty much what I said. I said, okay, you've opened the door. Here's the opportunity. If I'm to do this, I need to get off from work. If I don't get off from work, I don't go, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to stress about it. I'm going to leave it in your hands. And there was a hesitancy, but it was almost effortless that they said, you know what, that's a great opportunity. You go ahead and go. Just please come back when you're supposed to come back, but you go ahead and go. Miracle number one was that I got off of work for 2.5 weeks. That may seem like a small thing, but really it is not. And it's funny because I just got another job. And that was one of the questions was, do you have any major vacations that you're going to be taking a whole month off? And I said, no, I just did that jokingly but serious at the same time. And she said, oh, you would have never been able to do that here. When I say God is a God of timing, because had I been in the new job, which was my plan, had I been in the new job, the door would have not been open for me to get the time off. So if nothing else, the delay in my leaving one job open the door of opportunity for the fulfillment of this dream. God has a plan and a purpose for everything. Please believe it. Anyways, so that was number one. The finances was another one. I'm single, just starting out. The bills, God has provided me with the funds to take care of my needs, but a trip like that, I was thinking there's no way I can afford that. And he just took care of everything. He took care of everything to the point that when I got back, I figured when I got back, okay, I can figure out how to get the money to get there, but when I get back home, I'm going to be hungry, I'm not going to have any gas, I'm going to be calling my daddy because he so took care of everything that there was a surplus of extra money beyond what I should have normally had in the bank when I got back. God just took care of that. I'm going to break this down into videos because this is going to become a long story. I'm a talker. So I'm going to call this first little segment. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. This first little segment is the beginning of the miracle, and that was the opening of the door. When you begin to dream and you begin to pray about something, allow God to open the door. Don't try to create doors. Don't try to bust hole through walls. God is more than able to make a way out of no way. Please believe that, okay? So on this first little segment, and I'm going to try to give you some type of little encouragement with each of these videos. But my first segment is in the opening of the door. Allow God to open doors and just be amazed. I promise you, He will amaze you at where this door just came from, just how He did. Because I keep stepping back, like thinking, I don't even know how you did that, but you did it. Why? Because you're God. So this is video 1, and I will be back in just a sec with another. Okay.